Okay, so first clue here was the bear channel. Second clue here, inside day. Third clue, wedge. Now what does a wedge tell me to do? A wedge tells me to sell the highs, right, of that wedge and buy the lows of the wedge. It also tells me to avoid trading in the middle of the wedge. Okay, so we got our 3 clues. Now let's take a look at what happened this morning. Now at this point, we hadn't quite confirmed the high of that channel yet. So we're still kind of hanging out here thinking we're breaking above the highs, breakout, new higher high, I'm going to buy a pullback. So I buy a pullback here at 918 and we make our 30 bucks, right? Or 30 ticks, right? 30 ticks, 300 USD. That's a pretty easy way, right? Pretty easy way to start off our day this day. So 915, I'm now going to wait through 935, right? 915, 920, things start getting sloppier. I'm going to wait through 935 now. We make another higher high and I'm going to buy a pullback again. Now, if you remember this morning, we originally wanted to sell, didn't we? Didn't we want to sell here this morning? We did. My first goal was to look for a short. But again, when we broke right through that resistance, if you recall this morning, what happened was I was looking for the sellers, but we couldn't find any. And the buyers kept pushing higher. So we kept buying pullbacks. A little bit against our plan with the inside day. Remember, the inside day told me, look to sell the highs and be careful with the breakout. Well, sure enough, we were trying to be as careful as we could, but buyers kept coming in, making new higher highs, and we kept buying pullbacks. Now, here's where we're going to go through. Again, at 935, we've got our wave 1, your wave 2. Now we've got to get through this overhead resistance. Now, again, remember, I'm originally now looking to sell here. If you guys recall, overbought momentum made it very easy to look for a short, but we didn't see any sellers. So no chance to sell the highs here, no chance to sell the resistance. So of course, price breaks right through. Now what do we call this? We call this the sellers have failed. So in this example now at 945, we've gone through the 930 open, right? We sat on hands, we got out, new higher high, buy a pullback. We then waited to see if we could sell this wedge high. Didn't get a chance to, price breaks right through, another pullback here. You can't see it on this chart, it's a 4 range entry. And basically at 945, another 19 ticks. So we're continuing to see higher highs, continuing to look for sellers, but again, we're not getting much sell pressure here. And now at this point here, we know that we're getting closer and closer to the previous high of day. We're getting closer and closer, right, to that overhead resistance, that previous high of day. We just broke through resistance, and now we start seeing the buyers begin to slow down. Now, this happened too many times to count today. How many times did we see the buyers push new highs and what appeared to be the buyers just giving up, having a couple sellers step in, just enough to want to get us to go short here, again, because we're trying to sell now the highs of this channel, trying to sell now the resistance, that wedge pattern high. We had a lot of reasons to want to be a seller here this morning. The 89 range chart had way too many levels of resistance overhead to count. So we knew we were playing with fire by buying here, and once we saw these buyers slow down, momentum is overbought and getting ready to tumble, everything made sense to sell. So we take the sell here at 947. You can see it gets very sloppy, and this is when I knew we're in trouble the downside, right? When I saw this happen, when I saw us bounce off the high of the bull channel, that's when we knew, wait a second, the high of the bull channel is holding right now on the short side. That clearly tells us buyers are well in charge. But the frustrating part was we still weren't getting any great follow through. So even if the buyers were in charge, we weren't seeing very exciting price action to want to get involved. So I take the short at 947, goes +5, -5, ends up going down, bounces, and then makes a new higher high. Well, when I get that new higher high, I've now considered this now very bullish, I guess you would say, right? These sellers have failed. Now, of course, we make a new higher high again. The previous high of day is right overhead. That's our target. We have to assume now the previous high of day, again, that's not Sunday's high, that's Friday's high, is now going to be the magnet. And again, this is where we really started pulling our hair out. And we said, well, wait a second. We just saw the sellers fail, right? The sellers just gave up on it, selling off. We made a new higher high, I buy a pullback, and why aren't we testing that previous high of day from Friday, right? Very strange price action. And at 10:02, it's another wave long. This time, I get +5, -5, and price comes right back down in. Now at this point, again, I know we just saw the sellers fail, but at this point in the game now, why didn't we test the previous high of day? We just, of course, now came right back to the highs of that channel. We couldn't break to the previous high of day, so of course, what do? Mark up my swing low. I'm trying to sell the highs of that channel again. Now again here, 10.02 is a wave long, 10.09 is a +5 -6, +10 -12. I try to sell the highs, but look where it goes. It goes nowhere. And so at this point, my exact words were, we now know those buyers are definitely in charge here, because now twice, we've watched these sellers fail. And again, my exact words were, I know this is painful because we know going long right now is into resistance. And basically what I said was, if we don't feel comfortable buying long right now, we got to sit on those hands until we can start seeing some sellers come in, or we get above that previous high of day. So naturally, sellers fail second time around. Previous high of day is right overhead. I'm now going to try, right, to get that previous high to be tested.